Welcome back to another episode of Ballers, Beers, and Banter. I'm your host, Dave. Here with me, a couple of backup running backs, Anthony and Moose.
Hello.
What's up? I think we take offense to that. We'd like to think of ourselves as starting running backs.
Yeah.
But as we know with backups, they're maybe even more important because the first guy gets injured and then the backups come in. They come in to the spotlight and earn themselves all sorts of fantasy accolades. I should have specifically said a couple of San Francisco backup running backs because then it's more significant.
It's foreshadowing.
Right? Yeah, you're amongst a
Plus,
elite group.
If you don't have the competitive edge, getting paid a ton of money to sit on the bench isn't the worst.
It's not so bad. Yeah, like backup quarterback in the NFL is like, what a job, right? Holding the clipboard, calling plays in. You're like, yeah,
Blue Mountain
good.
State. That whole show was based on backup quarterback.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that. I haven't seen the show.
What?
That's the one that's filmed in Montreal on John Abbott College campus.
Yeah. I also have never seen that.
Is that the one with the famous clip of the dude? Like it's a famous TV or movie clip, and he's like throwing passes, the quarterback, and like some girl comes to talk to him, like his girlfriend, and he's just like the worst thrower ever. Like he's just like shoving the ball, just like pushing it. You ever see that clip? It looks like he's never thrown a football in his life.
No.
Never mind. I'll drop it up for you guys one time. But Blue Mountain State. All right. Yeah.
You sure that wasn't Varsity Blues?
No, it's definitely not Varsity Blues.
But he was a good backup quarterback. That was the whole thing. Any bad throwing, he was trying to play badly so he wouldn't start.
Oh, because he didn't want to get injured or something?
He didn't want the pressure, and he just wanted to reap all the benefits. He still got quarterback treatment by the ladies and everything, but he didn't have
quarterback treatment. Well, quarterback treatment is a good segue into our first headline of the day, which is Aaron Rodgers, who's getting quarterback treatment in Hawaii on vacation with some actor and his wife and Aaron Rodgers' fiance, and they're living it up. But he made time to appear on the final Sports Center hosted by Kenny Mayne on ESPN. Kenny Mayne's been a mainstay, sorry for lack of a better term, with Sports Center, and he's had some contract disputes. So he's out of there. So it was his last episode. He had him and Marshawn Lynch on and Sue Bird, I believe. So Aaron Rodgers goes on. And, people were expecting he's going to come out and say something big because it's Kenny's last show and say something like, he didn't, like, everything's good. He's coming back to Green Bay, like something like that would be the bombshell. Well, it wasn't. He, in fact, doubled down basically on his, the previous drama that was going on with him that really didn't come out of his camp, come out of his mouth. But on the show, he said, with my situation, look, it's never been about the draft picking Jordan, referring to Jordan Love. I love Jordan. He's a great kid. We've had a lot of fun to work together. Love the coaching staff, love my teammates, love the fan base in Green Bay. An incredible 16 years. It's just kind of about a philosophy and maybe forgetting that it is about the people that make the thing go. It's about character. It's about culture. It's about doing things the right way. So a lot of people are reading into this, analysts and fans alike, and saying, so he mentioned everyone in there that he has no problem with Jordan, no problem with his teammates, no problem with the coaching staff. Who did he not mention? Management. He did not say I have no problem with the GM or management and the decision makers up there. So people are saying, reading between the lines, and Aaron Rodgers likes to deliver those types of messages, and they're saying, he's unhappy with management. And then on to that,
we knew this. He asked the GM to resign.
Well, he didn't come out and say that. This was there was rumors that he was making. Did he?
Yeah, he came out. He said if the GM resigns or gets fired, he goes, I'll stay.
I think he said that publicly, but that was news that was out there that's what the general thinking was. But this is more public to be saying this type of thing on SportsCenter. And then you factor in that the top 5 wide receivers, so Devontae Adams and 4 other bozos. No, I'm just kidding. Alan Lazard, MVS, these guys, but not as good as Devontae Adams. But anyways, the 5 of them didn't show up to OTAs, but I think we're expected to. So some people are wondering if that's like a solidarity move with Aaron Rodgers, like, hey, you don't got Rodgers, you don't got us type of thing. So anyways, all sorts of drama unfolding, and it's great. We always have quarterback. There's always quarterback drama to talk about, guys.
Yeah. especially when Aaron Rodgers is in the NFL. He'll definitely be at the top of the headlines for QBs.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
My next dramatic headline has to do with Julio Jones, who we've already spoken about a few episodes ago. This has to do with another television show / podcast, Undisputed, with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe, of course, Hall of Fame tight end, and knows players in the league. So Shannon and Skip were talking about Julio Jones, and Skip was saying apparently Julio was in Dallas getting some workouts in and had a Cowboys jersey on. And Skip, who's a notorious Dallas Cowboys fan, said clearly Julio Jones wants to go to Dallas. Shannon Sharpe was saying, no, he doesn't. And Skip goes, oh yeah, let's call him up. Or Shannon says, let's call him up and find out. So he calls him on his cell phone, live, on air. So as far as we know as audience members, Julio did not know he was on Undisputed live. Shannon Sharpe calls him up, says, hey, you staying in Atlanta or are you going? And Julio Jones said, no, I'm out of there. And do you want to go to Dallas? Shannon Sharpe said. He said, no. I want to go somewhere where I can win. So it's a double whammy. It was a blow to Dallas fans everywhere and Atlanta fans. And then at the very, very, like you can hear Jenny Taft, the host, say, does he know he's on air? Because this, for all we know, is completely unplanned, unscripted. And at the very end, before Shannon Sharpe hangs up, goes, oh, okay, I got to go. We're live on air. See ya. So...
Yeah, and apparently this I found out later. Apparently, I think they film in California, and it's illegal to be recorded in California without letting them know ahead of time. So they can get in a lot of trouble for it. So it's very interesting.
So obviously, Atlanta fans are disappointed that they're clearly definitely losing Julio, and Dallas fans will not get him. And what's really interesting is how hard AJ Brown, star receiver for the Tennessee Titans, is pushing for Julio. So he put on his Instagram and Twitter, I believe, on his personal account, a message. He screenshotted a message that he sent to Julio Jones like 3 years ago when he was coming into the league, just thanking him and he's his role model and everything. And then he showed an audio message that he left for Julio on Instagram, convincing him to trying to sell him to come. Be like, you can be the main guy. I'll take a back seat to you with no worries. If you want me to carry the load, I'll carry the load. I can't get you my number. They won't allow me to change my number. So you'll have to wear number 8. He's just going on, but he's like, I got you. He's like, we got a great team. Say you want to win. We're a couple pieces away. You're one of the pieces. Just wild that we live in this. It's cool that we live in this era where we can see all this happening, whereas if it was 20 years ago, you wouldn't know any of this going on.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be going on.
Or yeah, exactly. Probably wouldn't be going on.
Now, do you think this is a positive, or I know we touched a little bit on the subject last episode, but let's say he goes to Tennessee or wherever he goes. I know it's a matter of health, but let's say he is healthy. I think he takes a step down because Matt Ryan loved throwing the ball to him. He doesn't necessarily become the number one guy wherever he goes, right?
It depends.
I can't see it as a positive.
It depends where he goes, but the places where you would assume he wants to go to championship caliber team, all those teams have a clear number one guy,
right,
wherever you're going. So, from a regular football context, is he number one? Is who knows?
Regular football, it's good for the team if he's healthy.
Great. It's great for any team to have Julio Jones. From a fantasy standpoint, you're right. Great relationship with Matt Ryan, obviously, for a number of years, and a good situation there. So him leaving, his fantasy stock could go down depending where he goes.
I think his fantasy stock goes down no matter where he goes
because of his injury history.
Yeah, and teaching an old dog new tricks. Like he's got to learn a potentially new playbook. He's working with a new quarterback. And we've said it many times. He's very talented, so I'm sure he'll still be a good fantasy asset, but
not a number
don't
one.
Expect peak performance Julio.
Let me ask you this. Julio leaves. He's not on Atlanta. What do you think of Calvin Ridley's fantasy stock for half PPR and PPR leagues?
Takes a slight dip, but I think he's still number one.
I think
a slight dip.
Yeah, it stays the same as last season.
I only say slight because we said last episode that even with Julio being injured on the field, he's a distraction, or he gets most of the coverage by the top cornerbacks.
Yeah,
and now Ridley will get all of it, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
I mean, they have Pitts there now.
Well, I was just going to say, Pitts will be the factor, because if Pitts needs the coverage,
right. So we'll have to see how that goes.
So and it's funny you mentioned, because just the rumors of Julio Jones leaving, although it's pretty substantial, like we pretty much know he's leaving. I've been on the mock draft game, as you guys know, and Kyle Pitts has already been going as tight end 4 or 5 in redrafts in these mock drafts. I think he'll like, he's not going to go ahead of Kittle and Kelsey, but I think he's going to be way up there. People are going to nab him so early because the hype train's going to be.
Waller will be the third.
Yeah, but the thing is, okay, so after, let's say, let's say Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson are 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So I would take.
It should be Pitts.
Yeah, I would take Kyle Pitts in that range, because after that, I mean, it's a gamble. They're all like 2-3 points a game. So even if you took Pitts and he doesn't pan out, the tight end you replace him with on the waivers is going to get you the same amount of points.
Right. I agree 100%. But for like, he's already going ahead of Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson. I'm talking like round 4 or 5 in redrafts. Like, he's going early. Early.
But again, like I said, there's only really 2 other tight ends after him before it doesn't really matter.
And we know Hurst is not going to take much away from him. So.
Oh, man. Okay. That'll be really interesting. I think with Julio gone, you're right. Calvin will see tough coverage, but he's an elite wide receiver, and his target volume will just be huge. So for half PPR and PPR leagues, I think he'll be great. If now, pretend situation, let's imagine where Julio could go. Let's say Julio goes to the Tennessee Titans. Let's say AJ Brown is successful in his recruiting campaign. Currently, AJ Brown's like really the only target there. So I see him like with his volume going up. The volume is the only thing he was missing. So currently I see his stock is continuing to rise. If Julio goes, I think he comes back to reality. AJ Brown dips back down because now they have better than Corey Davis on the other side. What does it do for Julio though? Could that be a really good situation for him?
I don't know. It really depends. Like, I think if he goes to the Titans and AJ Brown takes like a Calvin Ridley role potentially, it would really just depend on the relationship he could have with Ryan Tannehill, and how who knows? Maybe they just take Julio Jones and maybe that's it. Maybe he's just a decoy all season.
Yeah, but I mean, they're both big,
expensive decoy.
Maybe, expensive decoy.
But if it gets AJ Brown in the end zone, it's not that expensive.
Which he doesn't have a problem with already, as the only guy. But I think maybe it could. I don't know how much it would benefit him for fantasy, but if he's not the number one guy, maybe he's not being. I don't know. He gets a little bit of a break and doesn't get injured. I think he might be more stable, and maybe week to week, he's not, the top performer at wide receiver, but maybe he's more consistent, like a 10-12 type guy. If he's not the number one guy,
right.
He could be a better option, but he's definitely not a number one. I don't think he can be a number one anymore
for fantasy.
I mean, Julio has gone a whole season with almost not getting one touchdown. So it's
that right 2 seasons ago, where he was
2017.
He couldn't get in the end zone. 2017.
Yeah,
I thought it was even earlier, but
his yardage is always so up there. It's crazy.
All right, this headline's getting into main topic territory, so we got to move on. All right, next headline, short one. Jalen Reagor, second-year Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, put out on Twitter that he expects to be used in the slot. He was using the slot approximately 20% of his snaps last year. It would be interesting if he's used in the slot versus Devonta Smith. I was hoping that Devonta Smith would be, used in motion or used in the slot to try and get him some easy releases. Because as we talked about, I guess last two episodes ago. When did we do Devonta, guys? Last episode or the one before? It was last episode. So when we talked about Devonta, he might have trouble with press coverage because of his slender physique. So I was hoping he would be used in the slot, but Jalen Reagor came out and said he expects to. So we'll see. Well, something to keep our eye minor news. Anthony, you have some news for us as well concerning
yes.
backup running backs in San Francisco.
Yes. So per Mike Garafolo, running back Jeff Wilson Jr. will miss the start of the 2021 season due to a torn meniscus. He recently underwent surgery and is expected to miss 4 to 6 months. Wilson led the team with 600 rushing yards and had 10 total TDs last season.
10 tutties.
10 tutties. So, of course, heated debate between me and Moose a couple or 2 or 3 episodes ago on the value of Sermon. I said I wouldn't draft him
I was giving you so many opportunities to take back what you said.
No, but it's fine. I did say if somebody gets injured, he obviously moves up. So now classic San Francisco 49ers.
We knew somebody was going to get injured.
Right. But we don't hope for injuries.
We don't.
So I said at the time he was 4th on the depth chart. Mostert 1. Wilson was 2. Gallman was 3. He was 4. Jeff Wilson injured now.
Jeff Wilson Jr., by the way.
Jeff Wilson Jr.
The disrespect is unreal.
I said it before. Next time you miss a Roman numeral, I'm going to give you.
His father has bad knees too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And then a San Francisco beat reporter said that Gallman is the running back 2-4 now. So now with this news, Sermon, I would take a late round flyer on him. Like late round flyer. I won't even say last.
Trey Sermon will be drafted in most home league redrafts.
The chat on Sleeper got a little bit crazy. People were saying I would draft him 1st round and all this stuff. I mean,
for rookie drafts.
No, I'm reading the chat. I'm reading the chat.
Is it a redraft chat or a dynasty chat?
10 team, and people are like, would you take Sermon at 105 in a rookie draft? This is rookie draft, but there was other in the first 2 rounds. I mean, it is still a crowded backfield. He will most likely pass Gallman because they just stacked up the running back role with a bunch of journeymen, I guess you would call it. So hopefully Moose believes that Sermon will be a top back of the rookies. And he's in a good situation. I mean, like I said, they're journeymen. So he does think that Sermon will be the number 1 guy there by the end of the year, you said?
Oh, yeah. Easily.
Wait. So am I getting this wrong? Anthony, you said Trey Sermon was undraftable?
Yes.
I said I wouldn't take him in my last round. There were other rookie running backs that I would take.
Yeah. Oh, and yes, you would go if you were in that position. You're not a big fan of having a lot of rookies on your team anyways, which is totally fair for redraft.
Yeah. And my reasoning behind it wasn't just that I don't like Sermon. I was saying I didn't want to take the risk that Moose took, like because we use Cam Akers in it as an example. Moose kept Cam Akers on his team last season, was only able to use him at the end of the season, and he was headed to the playoffs. And Moose made the argument. He's like, well, everybody's trying to make the playoffs, but some teams don't draft well. Aren't in a good position. So I said, I don't want to take the risk having a guy that it has to compete with 3 people, and we don't know how the time will be split. It could be different this year. It could be that Sermon outplays everyone and they just go with him as the number 1. And then in that case, heck yeah, like draft him earlier.
Yeah. And I mean, Cam Akers was potentially he was in a much tougher committee to try and outbeat. Like Trey Sermon's competition is not really tough competition.
But some people disagree because you and I are not high on Mostert, but Dave was really high on Mostert.
Mostert is very, very good. He's again the only 2
varies, Moose.
The only 2 people to clock over 23 miles an hour in a game is Tyreek Hill and Raheem Mostert. He's a dangerous weapon.
Mostert has been good for how many years in the NFL? 1.
It's the first year he got his chance.
Well, it took him.
He was in the league a long time.
And sorry, it was 2 years.
It took him 5 years to get an opportunity to play.
And then he was very good for 2 years.
1 year.
So, I mean, maybe one and a half.
Well, last year when he was playing, he was excellent.
Yeah, well, that's it. So it's not 2 full years. It's
there's injuries.
A couple of games sprinkled around.
I understand. So if you're expecting him to miss for injury, then that totally makes sense. Anyways, this is getting into main topic territory and reliving old episodes. We got to move on. Moose, you have news on a stud running back.
Speaking of knee injuries, it was reported today by Jordan Raanan, who is the ESPN NFL national reporter who covers the New York Giants, has said that Saquon Barkley could be limited in the early season, as the team wants to ensure that he's fully healthy after his injury last season. He had major knee surgery, and the expectation is potentially that he sees 85% or less of the workload, which
I think is really good news.
Which, going back to our last episode, and I've said it a few times, Raquel Armstead suddenly becomes an interesting name since they picked him up off waivers as soon as they could.
Yeah.
And also Devontae Booker, who has shown that he can do stuff, but I mean, I wouldn't temper your expectations.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think as someone who owns both Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey in Dynasty, this is the kind of thing for Dynasty anyways that I like to hear, because if he were to come back, him or McCaffrey, and just throw him into take 40 touches a game, like you're asking for it, right? Yep. So you should ease them back and make sure they're comfortable and ease off their workload. Load management. If they're doing it in the NBA, why not do it in the most physical sport there is? So I think it's fine. For redraft, it might send off a few alarm bells, but I'd much rather have quieter weeks 1 through 3 or 1 through 4 instead of having a monster week 1 through 4 and then he gets injured again. So, I appreciate it. And I think Carolina should do the same with Chuba Hubbard and use Chuba, the rookie, a little bit to ease CMC back into it. I think it's wise. All right, a couple more headlines for you guys. Antonio Brown officially signed with the Bucs. He's back, so the whole squad's back, and the leading point getter all time in NFL, Adam Vinatieri, famous kicker, has retired from the NFL. And I don't have the stats in front of me, but he would have to be the leading all-time fantasy points getter. He would have to be, right?
I think I saw a headline that stated that.
Got to be. For how many years he's played. There's no one. Like, I know, even if you're in PPR leagues and you're getting points for receptions, he would have to be up there. So he's gone. Sorry, guys, to find a new kicker to draft. All right. That it for headlines?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Ooh, some wild headlines. All right.
Spicy.
Well, then, let's get into the main topic of the day, which is our continuation of rookie reviews, focusing on wide receivers. And we are in episode 3. Today, we're going over Rashod Bateman and Elijah Moore. And Anthony is going to hit us and introduce us to Rashod Bateman.
Yep. Rashod Bateman taken in the first round, number 27 to the Ravens. He's 6 feet. And he's 190 pounds.
So I hate to get you off, but we have to explain it every time, because if people are listening for the first time, they're going to think you're such a donkey. 6 feet?
So the first time Anthony did one of these, he got stuck between foot and feet, and it came out fet. Fet. Like that. So now, whenever we say someone's height, we say fet.
Fet. Yeah. So 190 pounds. He ran a 4.43 40-yard dash time and had a vertical of 36 inches. I mean,
not bad.
It's okay. Not bad.
3 Subway sandwiches, to put it in perspective.
Yeah.
3 feet.
His college history, nothing terribly spectacular, but he played for Minnesota. First year, 51 receptions, 704 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. As a sophomore, he was named a semifinalist for the Fred Biletnikoff Award. It's funny that I didn't botch that.
Yeah, you nailed that. I don't know.
Biletnikoff. And first team All Big Ten, and the Richter Howard Receiver of the Year after catching 57 passes for 1,170 yards and 11 touchdowns and averaging 20.5 yards per catch, which is great.
Those are good. And Minnesota plays in... They have a couple of good. I think they had a couple of tough matchups last year, so I'd be interested. I'll keep looking at that.
Yeah, you can check that out. So situation. So we know Baltimore has an interesting cast of receivers. So they got the supposed number 1 Marquise Brown. They signed Sammy Watkins this offseason. They drafted Miles Boykin 2 years ago. with Marquise Brown. They have Devin Duvernay and James Prochet, Roman numeral 2, that were rookies last year, I believe. I'm not sure about Duvernay, but I know Prochet was.
They both were rookies last year.
Yeah.
So Bateman, as per ESPN, is currently third in the depth chart. As far as wide receivers go, obviously Mark Andrews is there. So if you throw in Mark Andrews, he's probably the fourth target on the team as it stands right now.
Yeah.
The other receivers, the rookies and the sophomores, aren't cutting it. And I mean, they signed Sammy Watkins, who is an every year injured player. So I don't know how much help he can be for the team. And he's getting old. He's getting up there. Or maybe he just seems old because of his injuries.
He's how old do you think he is, Anthony?
Sammy Watkins?
Yeah.
29?
I was going to say 27. Look, I'll go in the middle, 28.
He's 27.
Oh my goodness. So it's literally the injuries that are making him seem like he's
well, but if you come in the league at 21. Go ahead.
Let's take a step back.
Okay.
Sammy Watkins, he's a good wide receiver. Okay.
Yeah.
But like on the Chiefs, he's not the best receiver. In Baltimore, it could be a whole different story.
Where when he was healthy, wasn't he, not counting tight ends, wasn't he the number 2 receiver when he was healthy?
After Tyreek Hill? Yeah. I think so.
Well, I would say, he's the number 2 wide receiver, but I mean, I think
the third option. You're right.
Yeah.
The third option. The third receiving option.
Where do you think, as far as situation is, like he's the wide receiver 2 according to the depth chart?
Well, so let's say injuries aside.
Yeah.
Is he better than Marquise Brown?
Probably. Yeah.
So then he's the number 1 wide receiver in Baltimore.
Yeah, but I will mention,
and I do think that's how they think of it.
I will mention again. Yeah, I think that's what they're hoping for. Whenever a team, like I'm pretty sure when Kansas City signed him, they're like, we have Tyreek Hill, but if we get the healthy Sammy Watkins, we're in the clear because look at his age. He's 27. And I think that's what Baltimore is hoping for as well. I hope for like Baltimore's sake that he is healthy, but for fantasy purposes, I'm not going to say never. You take a flyer on him late because you don't know if he's going to be healthy.
Week 1, huge points, and then you just drop him.
First 4 games, try and capitalize on it there. So draft him, but
in all honesty, I'm taking a look here. I'm looking at PPR, and he was the number 20 wide receiver once when he was in his second year in Buffalo, and then he's never even come close to that again.
Yeah.
But talent wise, I mean, he could be something.
He's a super talented guy. And I mean, training with Tyreek Hill in the offseason is not a bad workout regimen to be a part of. So I mean, situation wise, Bateman is in a pretty good spot. He could outshine the sophomores and the rookies because clearly they drafted him for the reason that all their other wide receiver draft picks have not panned out the way they had hoped. Marquise Brown was our Marquis de la mid-round last year.
Hold on. Pump the brakes.
This is why I love it.
We have all agreed that last season Lamar Jackson's throwing was dismal. Right. So you can't give the rookies from last season. You can't say that they didn't pan out. Like we always say it takes 2. Right. And until Lamar Jackson steps it up a little bit, I think we can't.
But they weren't even.
I'm not saying they didn't pan out.
They weren't even on the field. They weren't even on the field that much, Moose.
Look. Dave. Baltimore didn't even need to do field wide receivers.
Okay.
Like making that statement. Statement is
But we saw who was on the field? Willie Snead. Willie Snead was on there, and
yeah. But this is they had Willie Snead last year. But this is something we got to look at. These guys, they drafted 4 receivers in the past 2 years, maybe a little bit more. I don't know if they drafted some in the later rounds. According to the management, they're paid millions of dollars to draft players. They felt the need to draft another receiver. So clearly, even if it's 2 out of the 4 didn't pan out. I mean, Lamar Jackson's not the greatest passer, but I mean, they obviously didn't show enough to warrant a spot on the team and not drafting another receiver. So now Bateman comes into a situation where he's going to compete with everyone. So he has all the chances to succeed in this offense. So to me, situation is pretty good. You go to the coaching staff. I'm just gonna glaze over this quickly.
Hold on, real quick. Sorry. So I would disagree. So situation on a normal team, great. But I think in Baltimore, I think if you're a wide receiver, it's not a great situation, like until it is.
I have to agree with Moose here because they don't. We're talking about a team that doesn't throw the ball a lot in the past. Maybe they're going to change a little bit. They could with all these receivers. They could, but traditionally they don't throw the ball enough to support many receiving options. And even if Bateman slides in to be the third wide receiver option after Watkins and Marquise Brown, there's Andrews. So there's Andrews, Marquise Brown, Sammy Watkins, and then Rashod Bateman, and the competition from all these other young receivers.
But we're not talking about ideal. So situation is just looking at it as a whole. We're not like we're looking at fantasy situation wise. We're not talking about in season or it's as a whole. It's preseason. It's in season. I mean, the opportunity is there to stay on the field as the number one or number two.
What you said was completely right, Anthony. He definitely could be. He could even be ahead of Marquise Brown when it's all said and done, right? But we're looking at a team that threw 406 pass attempts last year.
Right.
406. To put that in perspective, the Falcons and like Steelers who were throwing the crazy were like 650. So like there's just not enough. There's not enough food to go around. They can't all eat. You know, so we're talking about he'd have to have a 25. So a receiver, according to last year's stats, would have to have 25% market share just to get 100 targets. And 100 targets is what you need to be in the conversation for top 12 receiver, right? So at least.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
situations there. Will he get enough targets to be a valuable fantasy pick? That's another question. But situation is good.
Yeah. The answer to that question is no.
Yeah. One can hope. And a team that sucked in one can hope.
I mean, Anthony, put it this way. Do you want to draft Marquise Brown and redraft?
No. I'm not.
Neither do I.
I'm not taking a shot.
Do you want to draft Sammy Watkins?
No. I'm not taking any. So we'll just simplify it. I'm not taking any of the receivers. But as a guy, when we talk rookies, late round flyers, I mean, if he does become number one, we expected Marquise Brown. We all knew that Lamar Jackson had a surprise season when he had a great passing season.
If you think Rashod Bateman is a better last round flyer than Trey Sermon, we got issues, man.
It's two different positions.
Yeah, but two different positions. Yeah, but it's for points. You know, it's a flyer. He's the guy who's going to get you a ton of points.
Well, I would take a running back that has the known work over a receiver where you don't know that with six of them who's going to get the ball, especially on Baltimore. So in this case, I would take Sermon over him. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and in general, rookie running backs have a clearer path to getting some fantasy production than receivers, even though we've had some really good rookie wide receivers lately.
Yeah. And just to group the next bunch together. So coaching staff, Jim Harbaugh is the head coach, Greg Roman, offensive coordinator. I believe it was his first year last year. That's probably incorrect. Maybe 3 years. Anyways,
that's probably wrong.
It's clearly a run first defense. Lamar Jackson, they love when he runs the ball. They love running the ball with the numerous running backs they have. This year, there's no more Mark Ingram, Roman numeral 3. It's going to be Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Schedule-wise, they have a tough division. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and
Anthony,
Cincinnati.
Did you say sorry to cut you off? Did you say Jim or John Harbaugh?
Jim.
It's definitely John.
No.
I always mix them up.
It's Jim Harbaugh.
Jim is his brother. Jim's the brother who coaches.
Are you Googling
Michigan.
it right now? Jim.
Yeah, I'm on it. John Harbaugh is
it
the Ravens head coach? Yeah, I mix them up all the time. Jim and John. So Jim previously was San Francisco 49ers coach and now coaches Michigan.
You're correct.
And John Harbaugh.
So John Harbaugh and Greg Roman.
Yeah.
Schedule wise, they have a tough division with Cleveland Browns. Pittsburgh is yet to be seen. Dave is not so high on Pittsburgh this year.
Their defense will be good though.
Yeah.
Just not there.
Cincinnati will be a good offense, not a great defense. They play the NFC North, and they also play
NFC North, like your Chicago Bears?
Yeah. The Bears, the Packers, Minnesota,
tough
and Detroit.
Not Detroit, but everyone else tough.
Yeah. And the AFC West, which is the San Diego Chargers, Oakland Raiders, Denver Broncos, and I'm missing one. Anyways, it's not the most difficult schedule, but still, they're not a passing team. Their team strength is at running back and quarterback. And it's just the run game. It's not the passing game, and their defense, obviously. Every chance will be given to Bateman to succeed. Gut instinct, late round flyer. I mean, if you're going heavy wide receiver and you want to take a shot on a guy, I mean, you could take a shot on Bateman, but for me personally, like Moose said it perfectly, it's not a team that passes, and Dave said it too. They're not a team that passes a whole lot. You would think that the coaching staff will try and improve a little bit and try to get back to how they were a couple years ago. But I mean, I don't see two receivers being successful other than maybe one wide receiver and one tight end, that being Mark Andrews and whoever the other guy is.
Yeah. I mean, Rashod Bateman as an individual, if he wasn't on Baltimore, sure, maybe I'd take as a late round flyer.
Right.
But the fact that he's in Baltimore, the fact that nobody's interested in Sammy Watkins, nobody's interested in Marquise Brown, I'm not drafting him.
Marquise Brown will only be drafted because of name.
Yeah. So I don't know why Rashod Bateman would suddenly find more success. Right. I'm not drafting him.
Yeah, Marquise Brown burnt me real good last year in a couple leagues. So he did come on towards the end, but you're right.
Too little,
I think
too late.
you guys hit the nail on the head with Rashod Bateman. I agree 100%. Anything else before we move on?
Nope. It's pretty clear.
So we can move into that. Thanks for that. I think that was you got a little heated, it was a little fun. And we hope it gets as heated and fun for our next and final wide receiver they're going to be talking about.
I was told, Moose, heat things up. Heating it up.
Moose is like a microwave. You ask him to heat things up, boom, it's done. 2 minutes.
Pretty hot. It's pretty hot.
Pretty hot. Piping hot.
It's pretty hot. I don't have AC, and I'm sweating.
We noticed
profusely here.
You barely have a shirt on.
Yeah. We're on YouTube, Anthony. You know this, right? Okay. All right. So we went over a little bit less with Rashod Bateman, but it's time to go over a little Elijah Moore, who was drafted in round 2, 34th overall to the New York Jets. He stands at 5'9" and weighs 178 pounds. He ran an unofficial 40-yard dash of 4.34 and also a 36-inch vertical, like his compatriot Rashod Bateman. 4.34. I watched it. It's stopwatch time. So maybe there's several stopwatches on it. I don't know, but he looked very fast. So I think it's pretty legit. He's probably 4.3, maybe 4.4 territory. He's
40's not done with the laser
at the combine, but not at these pro days. Because remember, there's no combine this year. So these are all very unofficial. That's why we've never seen this many 4.3s before. And all the old receivers are like, yeah, another 4.3. Anyways, but he's fast. All right, college history. So Elijah Moore went to Ole Miss. He spent 3 seasons there, which is the same school that produced DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown. Huh? All right, got your attention now, don't I, listeners?
No.
No? It's some 2 pretty good.
No, his size is not the same as those 2. So
no, he's not. But Moore he actually set the single game school record for receiving yards when he went 14 receptions for 238 yards and 3 TDs, and he tied the TD and reception records for his school. We're talking about DK and AJ Brown. Moore played in only 8 games last season before deciding to forego the remainder of the season to focus on the NFL draft, which we've seen many players do. In those 8 games, he got a school record 86 receptions for 1,193 yards and 8 touchdowns. He was only 127 yards short of A.J. Brown's single season record for yards, but Brown did it in 12 games. So in 4 less games, he was 127 yards away from Brown's school record. Pretty cool. Moore also had the most receiving yards per game in the country in college football with 149.1 and 10.8 receptions per game. So he was in the conversation for the Biletnikoff Award, the Receiver of the Year Award in college, if he had continued the season. I know I said the same thing about Waddle, but he was in that same conversation. So he good. He's good. He was playing on a pretty high-powered college offense with Lane Kiffin there. I don't think Lane Kiffin
plays for the Jets.
Now he plays for the Jets. So his situation is, yeah, I mean, I wrote in our Google Doc here. Anthony, you want to read out what I wrote in our Google Doc?
Yeah, I was smiling. You saw me smiling before. Jets, Jets suck. Still suck.
Still suck. Unfortunately. I'm sorry, Jets fans. I'm sorry, but we can't trust the Jets. So last year we had different nicknames for the Jets based on how poorly they were performing. The Balsa Wood Jets, the papier-mâché Jets. I think we had paper airplane Jets, all sorts of stuff before we finally settled on Balsa Wood. But are they going to graduate back to just regular Jets? Will we be able to call them Jets this year? Or are they going to be a laughingstock? It remains to be seen. But the safe bet is that this offense will continue to struggle with rookie coaching staff, rookie QB, and rookie running back, and Elijah Moore, who's probably their second or third best receiver right off the bat, who's also a rookie. So that's the situation. Do you guys see the situation differently with the Jets?
No, not at all. The Jets are, there's a couple teams this season who are, let's call them restructured teams, and almost as a whole. So, we don't really know how Zach Wilson's going to perform, which directly affects Corey Davis, who has, for the most part, underperformed. Elijah Moore, rookie. I saw something today. There was a whole argument on Twitter, or debate, if you will, that Ty Johnson is the best running back.
He very well could be.
Very well could be. So there's all kinds of question marks surrounding the Jets, and realistically, I think, like I said, until it's a good situation, it's a bad one. So take a snapshot of last season and expect maybe 2 more wins. Until I'm proven wrong.
Like
that's generous.
They made the greatest decision ever, getting rid of Adam Gase. So can only go up.
You figure it would have to be a little bit better. Now, listen, we'll talk a little bit about coaching. Moose already hit it, but Robert Saleh is there as the new head coach from San Francisco. He was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, so he's a defense-first guy. He brought in, also from San Francisco, Mike LaFleur to be his OC. So it's a safe bet to think that they'll model their offense. I think Mike LaFleur has even said it, that they want to run a San Francisco-style offense, which is the run, and the run's the cornerstone of the offense. And they still pass quite a bit, but the passes and the runs, the formation and the way that they block will look the same, so that the defense doesn't know what's coming. In that type of offense, we saw a lot of short passes. We saw receivers being used coming out of the backfield. I have to sneeze, guys. Oh my gosh.
It's okay.
It's coming.
I'll fill in for a bit.
Keep going.
Because we already had a Jim and a John Harbaugh confusion. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they're related, but Mike and Matt LaFleur are different people. Yes. And I saw a whole thing. It got heated because people were mixing up Mike and Matt LaFleur, and they were going, he's not a coach for the Jets. He's a coach for the Green Bay Packers. So in case you were confused, Mike and Matt LaFleur are not the same person.
Right. This is not Matt LaFleur, the Green Bay Packers head coach. It's Mike. Anyway, so we can expect some short passes, receivers playing out of the slot, maybe like Debo Samuel getting handoffs in the backfield, which Elijah Moore was very good at. Elijah Moore did play in the slot, and he did take handoffs out of the backfield, and was very elusive. So that's a positive. Okay. Another positive is the Jets play. I like when Moose talked about rush defenses and Michael Carter and the Jets playing. Okay. So the Jets have 5 games against bottom 10 defenses versus the wide receiver last year based on 2020. So five teams that gave up the most points to wide receivers, and they only play 3 games against top 10 defenses from last year. And it's based on last year, but still. And they have a fairly easy schedule besides the New England, Buffalo, Miami twice each, which will be tough. I think they'll get eaten up. Under team strength for the Jets, I put not applicable. For now. And
the team strength is that they're a different team than last year.
Yes, that they have. Adam Gase is gone. They have different coaches. In terms of opportunity, there's another positive. Really, the only player ahead of Moore for sure is Corey Davis, who they signed for 3 years, $37.5 million. Clearly, they got to use that guy. And then Moore's competing with Jameson Crowder, second-year player Denzel Mims, who people were really high on last year, tight end Chris Herndon, people like this. So the opportunity is there for him to become wide receiver 2 on the team, but The negative is that it's a terrible team. So my gut instinct on Elijah Moore, I love both Bateman and Moore, I think are pretty similar for different reasons. They both have opportunity, and they're both very good. I like them both for Dynasty. So if you're in a Dynasty league late, just people in our Dynasty league, cover yours. But others, if you're late first round pick or second round pick, if you can snag one of these guys, I think that's great. But so whereas Rashod Bateman was on a not pass friendly team, so that's where he suffers. Elijah Moore is on a team where we don't know what they're going to be, except probably bad. So that's where he suffers. So although the opportunity is there, I would not draft Elijah Moore in redraft. I would like to see what happens week 1 or week 2, unless it comes out in camp and like he's killing it. He's going to be the number 1 receiver, and him and Zach Wilson have a rapport, then whatever. Then maybe I'll be like, okay, one late round flyer. But other than that, I'm comfortable seeing what happens in like weeks 1 and 2 and seeing how that develops, how that Jets offense looks. That's where I'm coming at it. And by the way, when we recommend late round flyers for these guys, that doesn't mean you take like 4, 5, or 6 flyers with your last 6 picks in your redraft leagues.
Literally, okay? It's the last round.
Literally, we're talking about last round, maybe last 2.
So I don't know,
take all these guys.
Yeah, I don't know if I said it on the air, but consider the last round of your draft like someone you were looking at on the waiver wire and you wanted to be ahead of the game. So think of that as your first waiver pick.
Yeah,
the last round.
And that's a great way to think about it, Miss. It's a great way to think about it and if he doesn't pan out, it'll probably end up being the first guy you drop to pick up on the waiver wire. So it's a great way to look at it. I agree, 100%. Awesome. One year, I think my first year playing fantasy football, I stumbled across some articles about sleepers. So sleeper picks are people that could end up having really high potential, but are being drafted later than their upside, and people that you could look to target. And so I wrote all these names down, and I went into my fantasy draft. I drafted all of them. So I had like a full sleeper team. And let me tell you, quite a few of them stayed asleep. So I ended up with a pretty bad team that year. So you don't want to take all flyers. You want to take some sure things as well. Anything else on Elijah Moore, guys?
No.
Okay.
If you're awesome. Like irking, although if you guys, not us, but the public, if you guys definitely want to draft a rookie wide receiver out of Bateman and Elijah Moore, I would say take Elijah Moore over that because if Ty Johnson's the number 1 running back, they're going to be throwing the ball.
Yeah, or Michael Carter, who we also talked about in our rookie reviews.
Carter.
Yeah, and Moore's talented. I liked his tape. I liked his game tape. So I'll keep an eye on him. Excuse me. But it remains to be seen where
for those in their dynasty leagues. I mean, more.
Keep your eye on him. Like to me, so if we go back, I mean, we're going to do on our next episode, we're going to talk about Kyle Pitts a little bit more. And we're going to review all the rookies that we went, not in depth, but just kind of remind everyone of the rookies we went through. So we'll go back and talk about Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, these guys, but those guys are going to be drafted, right? So those guys you might have to spend some capital on. These guys, Rashod Bateman and Kadarius Toney and Elijah Moore, probably won't. So maybe one of them you can target with a late round flyer. All right, guys. I think we're ready to move on to. Oh, do we have another segment, or do we have a hard hitter from Twitter, or they said it on Reddit?
Unless you guys have one, I don't have one. Oh my
goodness, are we going Reddit list today? That is a shame. I mean, we spent so long talking about Julio Jones and Aaron Rodgers that maybe we don't have to, but we can jump right into. Let's jump into beers, and then see what we're doing.
I'll go first, pretty quick. Standard Heineken, green can, red star, delicious as always.
Oh man. I went back to an OG from season 1 for you new listeners, my Michelob Ultra. I didn't want anything.
Ultra.
Is it ultra light? No, it's a light beer.
That's why it's called ultra, because it's ultra light.
Exceptional light beer is what it says. But I decided to drink this. I didn't want anything heavy because the no AC is killing me, and I needed something a little light.
Well, you probably should have just drank some ice water.
What?
A la
same
Dave.
thing.
which is what I'm drinking. Healthy Dave.
I'm the only one. I'm the only one drinking a beer tonight.
Hello.
And it's Heineken.
4%. There are beers that I think somebody has drank a beer on this podcast with 3.5.
We all did. It was for a Uncle Nick's pick.
There you go. So it's not the lowest percent,
but that was tasty to me. Like percentages, whatever, like obviously the stronger percent gets you where you want to go if you want to go somewhere, but it's about the taste. Like that beer that we had, which I'll remind ourselves of the name.
I thought you just had the cans. I thought you were about to show us the cans. Okay.
You must have a ton of fruit flies.
We did. No.
You wash out the cans, Anthony.
Well, if it's at his desk, he's not washing it out any cans.
Yeah, but you wash it out and then you put it back.
I don't know what Dave does.
We did a classic bitter red from the Riverbend Microbrasserie
freezing pizza. Jesus.
In Alma, Quebec. freezing the pizzas was gross. So ours was a Riverbend, a British style, made in Quebec red. That was delightful. It was delicious. So it's not all about alcohol content. I think it was like 3.8%. Well, gentlemen, we have plenty of time for words of wisdom. That's the good news.
Words of wisdom. Since
what are you watching?
Season 1, I kind of kicked it off by watching an old TV show. Well, not really old, but I guess from when we were teenagers. So here's another one. I restarted watching The X-Files.
Oh, nice.
Great show.
Yeah. It's still super good. Super good.
One of the best slogans as well. The truth is out there.
Yeah.
Which we could probably use for fantasy, right? If you're trying to discover who's going to be a bust, who's going to be a hit this year in fantasy football. The truth is not just out there. The truth is right here on this podcast. We'll let you know. The X-Files used to creep me out. I think I told you this, Moose, but it freaked me out. Really,
it's still very creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
I
psychological.
still have a slight fear. This might be a little gross or weird, but a slight fear of porta potties. Because there was one episode of the X-Files where there was like some sort of swamp monster that somehow came up from the porta potty.
Yeah, it was
freaked me out.
It was I think it's the one with the weird fish thing that lives in the sewers.
Yeah.
And it bites people and it gives them the circle mark. And
yeah, no, thank you.
Oh my goodness, I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me, it was there was one episode with a doll that was. It was more like horror movie.
They're all creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
It was the dolls creeped me out. So
I loved on the X-Files the character, the smoker. I think that's what they called him. The smoking man. Yeah, he's just always smoking in the shadows and he had that cool voice. And he it was so mysterious.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm happy you brought up the smoking man because there's a lot of the sequences with him, but one thing I've always noticed if you ever rewatch it, the lighting. The use of lights in the X-Files is so well done, and that really plays into a lot of the creepiness of the show.
Yeah,
a lot of people's faces are like half lit, and rooms have a certain like dark sort of coming around the walls, so it's very creepy.
Yeah.
It's very well done.
Yeah, well done for the 90s too. It's very impressive.
Well, lighting is lighting.
Lighting is.
It's just light bulbs.
You're right.
Doesn't matter what year it is.
Wisdom. Lighting is lighting.
Doesn't matter what year it is. They're just lights.
LED lights. I never heard about LED lights in the 90s. I recently, with Moose, actually started getting back into It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, yes.
I'm watching that currently.
Which probably not an appropriate title for Eagles fans because it's definitely not sunny in Philadelphia right now. But
it's sunny. They just suck.
Just probably gonna suck. Sorry, Eagles fans, and we love everybody. But yeah, just absolutely hilarious. Just outrageous show. And we probably can't even talk about episodes on here because
definitely not. Definitely
not. Okay.
All you know is they're just terrible people.
They're not terrible people. They're just people who see the world from a different point of view.
I think they don't know that they think they're being genuine.
But that's what I'm saying.
Sensible. Yeah.
They're just people who see the world from a different point of view.
Yeah. Hilarious. So that's what I've been watching. Guys, I didn't talk about it early on, but I'm wearing the red Habs jersey again today. So those of you on YouTube, if you're not already watching us on YouTube, get out there and subscribe. I'm repeating the jersey because it's the only thing that gave us luck. When I wore it last time, we won the first game. Since then, we've been absolutely terrible. Like, don't even deserve to be in the playoffs bad. So Montreal Canadiens, come on. This for good luck. Give us one more. And if they win, they go back to Montreal and play in front of some fans. Some fans.
I think we also had like a couple of thumbs up on our YouTube video. So if we don't get those,
then it's on you, listeners. It's on you.
Then it's on the listeners.
Yeah, we need some thumbs. Some thumbs up.
Some thumbs up.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think that pretty much does it. Wraps it up. We're going to be under an hour, man. Whew.
Yeah, we didn't have our other
usual
segment.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had a lot of pre-episode discussion.
Shenanigans. But listen, come back on Sunday. We'll definitely have a hard hitter on Twitter, or they said it on Reddit segment, to go along with some Kyle Pitts talk and a wrap-up review of the rookies episodes that we've done. Getting closer to fantasy season. Get out there and start getting in the mock. You got to get in the mock drafts. It's never too early to mock.
Get out there with the truth.
Yeah,
it is out there.
Exactly. It's here.
The truth is out there.
Truth is right here. As always, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Ciao.